and your contribution will be included. There it is in our recorded materials. Please rename yourself if you can in your little window there, your Zoom window, with the name and organization, so we all know who we're talking with. And thank you for introducing yourself in the chat as well. And then finally, make sure you're muted, and if you can, hold questions until the discussion portion of the presentation. Next slide, please. All right, so wanted to start with team introductions. And so I've already introduced myself, and so I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues here, starting with Shamika. If you wouldn't mind starting with the introduction, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Shamika Dixon, and I am the Director of Workforce Development at Grid Alternatives Los Angeles, and I'm a part of the WEDAX team, which is Workforce Development Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Shamika. Giovanni?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Giovanni Hernandez, Senior Community Engagement Coordinator. Really excited to be here with you all today and to get a chance to collaborate with you all in the near future.
Thank you, Giovanni. Marquise?
Good morning. How's everyone doing? I'm Marquise Brown, Workforce Development Manager, Business Services at Grid, GLA, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm part of the WEDAC, or Workforce Development piece. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. And from the CalSTART team, please.
Great. Good morning. So wonderful to see everyone's faces and all these wonderful introductions in the chat. My name is Alicia Gilday, Vice President of Clean Fuels and Infrastructure at CalSTART, and really excited to talk about this project with all of you today. Welcome.
Thank you, Alicia.
Good morning, everyone. Blair Schlechter, Deputy Director of Innovative Infrastructure Partnerships on the CalSTART Clean Fuels and Infrastructure team. And great to be with all of you today.
Hello, everyone. Nate Fernandez here, Technical Project Manager number 2 on the Clean Fuels and Infrastructure team alongside Blair and Alicia. And I'm very happy to be working on such an important project as this.
Thank you, Nate. Anyone else from CalSTART? If not, let's go to the next slide and see who we have from EPRI.
Hi, everyone. This is Andra Rogers. I'm a program manager at EPRI in electric transportation, and I'm the project manager for this REDA project. Thank you all for joining.
Andra. Thank you. Anyone else?
We have Kristen.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kristen Bush, also with EPRI. I'm an engineer scientist on our electrotransportation team, and I'll also be supporting our community engagement and workforce development efforts. So looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Kristen. Anyone else from EPRI? Trying to scan through everyone's pictures here, maybe not. How about from the CEC?
We can just acknowledge our wonderful
Yes.
Mission Agreement Manager, Ben Wender, who we have the delight, pleasure of working with.
Thank you, Alicia. Appreciate it. And finally, SCE, we have Jordan Smith, who is a consulting engineer. I'm not sure if he's in the audience here today, but wanted to mention that he is also working on this project as well. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the introductions. We can go to the next slide here. Just wanted to give a little context. So you're probably, I know a lot of you in the audience right now have worked with you in the past, and you're probably thinking, what is Grid Alternatives doing working on medium duty, heavy duty electric truck infrastructure, right? Well, this is something that we are really excited about. The reason we were selected is because we have a long history of outreach and engagement, right? I wanted to share just a little bit about the impacts that Grid Alternatives has had over the past 15 plus years here in LA County. We have installed close to 2,500 solar energy systems. We've worked on community facilities as well with some of our multifamily affordable housing partners, nonprofit partners. We've saved millions of dollars in energy savings for families and for these organizations. If you can go to the next slide, Giovanni. And we have done a lot of work around workforce development. And so you see some of the numbers there. We have saved the planet, many tons of greenhouse gas emissions, taken, this many cars off the road, right? So we have had significant impact from the work that we do. But the reason we're here is because we do outreach and community engagement every day. Every day we're out there knocking on doors, calling people, conducting town halls, webinars, et cetera, to try and connect folks to clean energy and clean mobility. And so we're very thankful that we were selected to be part of this effort. You can go to the next slide. I want to hand this off to Nate, who will talk about why we're here. What's the reason behind this project? So Nate, if you want to take it from here.
Thanks, Stella. Yeah, so the problem that's really at the core of this project is that in California, the transportation sector is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions and a major contributor to criteria pollutant emissions. And the targeted freight corridors of this project are surrounded by highly impacted communities facing adverse health and economic impacts to workers and residents. And this includes increased hospitalizations, cases of severe asthma, health costs, missed days of work and school, and overall quality of life for the millions of Californians living within 10 miles of these targeted freight corridors. But the adoption of zero emission alternatives may greatly improve regional air quality, reduce health impacts on nearby communities, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. However, drayage fleets and drayage vehicles are the vehicles that are in charge of moving all the freight from ports, out of the ports and into distribution centers along California. And these fleets are beginning to adopt zero emission trucks, and they're facing a lot of challenges. And this includes understanding and adopting performance and flexibility of battery electric vehicles, installing necessary charging infrastructure, and fleets and community needs are not always well connected and communicated with truck and infrastructure manufacturers and utilities. And with that, I'll hand it off to Blair to describe the project, our overall goals, and how we intend this project to help out with all these problems just listed.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, just for those of you who are just joining, Blair Schlechter, Deputy Director, Innovative Infrastructure Partnerships at CalSTART. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the project and then turn over to Alicia to dive in a little deeper about the community aspect of things. So this is a really exciting project. It's, a first of its kind project here in California to create a research hub to facilitate and accelerate heavy duty trucking in California and hopefully down the line beyond. And it's going to involve a number of different things. One is the technology piece, advancing research and developing activities that extend the range of large weight class battery electric vehicles, starting with drayage and expanding out from there. But the other aspect of this is, the really employing a community first approach, and this group will be a key part of that, is really engaging a wide range of stakeholders to get input from them about the project, about who to engage and how to engage, and what we should be thinking about as we think through how to make this project most effective, with a key focus on, obviously pollution burden and impacted communities, and then obviously on the technology side, what are some of the issues there, with the ultimate goal of planning and implementing scalable public corridor charging strategies. And I will go into that in a little more detail on the next slide. So here's kind of an overview of some of the key activities. One of them is community engagement and workforce development. This committee is going to be really focusing on that community engagement part. We're also going to be doing a fleet needs and technology maturity assessment. So understanding what are the needs that trucking needs and how to make the whole system work in an intelligent fashion so that it can be scaled beyond the initial 2 pilot sites, which you'll see in a second. So there's going to be a phase 1 pilot deployment, which involves 2 stations. One is in the Carson, another one's in the Riverside area. And then there's sort of a plan 2, which is more of a wider corridor public network implementation. Next slide. Here's kind of an overview. I know it's a little small, but this is kind of a little bit of the ecosystem. And you can kind of see on the bottom left a whole bunch of the different partners that are involved. So I want to take a moment to thank all the partners, and especially EPRI, who's leading up this effort, but also involving Edison and a number of other partners you see on here, including Grid, who's leading this committee. And so it's going to involve really the entire ecosystem of potential partners, from community groups to utilities, to ports and academia, and with the idea of really bringing all these pieces together. And you can kind of see here, it's a little small, but you can kind of see there's a phase 1 and phase 2 element to it, all about accelerating high-powered truck charging, and then planning for, on a wider scale, these corridors that would need to be built out so that electric trucking will be managed and can be implemented in an effective way. And a lot of that's going to be involving deployment and outreach and data collection. There's going to be a bunch of data collection, lessons learned that will be shared. There's a website that we just finished the initial parts of that will be available for people to look at and understand what the project is about. And then obviously community engagement. And that's a key part of what you're here for today, is to be part of that community engagement, hear from you about what are the key needs of the community along these initial pilot sites, and then what are some key issues beyond that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alicia Gildy to talk about the next steps in this particular committee.
Great, thank you so much, Blair. Well, first of all, I have to say we are so lucky to have Grid Alternatives as our equity partner in this really important project, first of its kind project, to not only support with the meaningful community engagement that we would like to see in this project, realizing how critical our community leaders need to be at the table to support the decision-making as we look at how we're going to most affect change in this transition to zero-emission freight, and where there's opportunities to be thoughtful about where we're siting infrastructure to really support our independent owner operators. For the most part, a lot of our drayage operators are your small fleet, truck owners. So how do we make the business case? How do we make it a viable solution for them? How do we make it convenient and user-friendly? This is where we really want to bring the community voice, because a lot of our truck drivers are living in the communities that live along these freight corridors. And so it's going to be really critical that as we're looking at how we move this project forward, bringing the community voice to the discussion is critical. So that's why we've called this a community first stakeholder driven process, really looking at how do we bring all these really important stakeholders together to drive the biggest impact. So we've essentially created 4 committees to really support the various activities that Blair was so good to present an overview of. So first and foremost, we have a technology advisory committee, which is kind of looking at the overarching project and making sure that, one, we're meeting the goals of the project, but making sure that we're working across all these committees to make the biggest impact, whether we're looking at innovating technology, deploying that technology. Of course, we're going to be developing this technology and working with our community, working with industry to then implement the technology. But then we're going to be working with our Community Technology Advisory Committee, which is really the opportunity to inform how we're bringing this information to communities, how we're bringing this information to our truck industry, how we're providing information on what can be done, what incentives are available, how do we work together to strategically identify and locate opportunities for charging along our freight corridors. How do we speed up the pace of this transition and do it in a thoughtful and sustainable way? And that's why bringing our community, bringing our utility, bringing our industry, our fleet, our government, our port partners together is so absolutely critical. We also realize we need to develop the workforce. for the future. And no better than to look at how we can support economic development in our nearby communities. So how can we support it through this really important project to build that workforce? So working with local academia, working with our utilities, working with industry, looking at how we can bring in colleges and high schools to start training programs to really support this transition, whether we're looking at how we're maintaining these vehicles or how we're deploying and implementing these technologies, really building that workforce. There's a huge need for it, and it's a critical opportunity for California and beyond. What I will say about these committees is that there's going to be so much learning that's going to come out of it. So whatever we learn from the Technology Advisory Committee, the Industry Technology Advisory Committee, the Community Technology Advisory Committee, and the Workforce Development Advisory Committee, the opportunity of learnings that are going to come from those activities, those discussions, and the actions that we drive through those committees are going to be templates for replication. So how might what we learn through this process, this thoughtful engagement with stakeholders to make decisions on how to best deploy zero emission freight program, and truly looking at how we're advancing zero emission truck technology and charging technology, how might we share that information with the world? How can we help other ports? How can we help other key freight corridors and communities that are impacted by freight emissions look at how they can adopt strategies to really help transform and move toward this direction of zero emission freight? And that's another really important element of this project, is how we're promoting the technology transfer from all these activities and how it's informing our ability to be more effective with what we're trying to drive with this project. It's an aggressive project. There's some really important goals that we have to meet, but we can meet them together. And I think that's what's really important about this community first, stakeholder driven process, is truly looking at how we work with all of you, working with all of these wonderful partners to build these zero emission freight corridors so that we can see the benefits to our communities and certainly to our air quality and how we can reduce the impact of climate change. Back to you, Blair.
Right, I think Stella is.
We can go to the next slide. I gave a good overview.
Okay, so this is actually my slide then. So this project is all about advancing high power charging. Right now, trucks are charging at most at like 250 kilowatts, maybe 350 kilowatts, and RETA is all about megawatt charging, which is roughly 4 times the current power levels. So this kind of high power charging really is a game changer in meeting particularly the needs and duty cycles of drayage fleets. We're working with manufacturers and labs and utilities like Southern California Edison, and we're developing 2 pilot sites to demonstrate megawatt level charging on medium and heavy duty trucks. One of them is near the San Pedro Bay ports, and one is in Ontario near the truck distribution centers. And as you can see in the map, these pilot sites are in highly impacted, disadvantaged communities. So throughout this process, we're going to be collecting data, lessons learned, workforce development, and providing updates to our advisory committees, keeping the communities informed along the way so that we can incorporate community needs and feedback throughout the project with an overall goal of documenting lessons learned and best practices so that we can scale these efforts and guide future projects. And next slide, Giovanni. And so a little bit about the technology itself. The target performance for these megawatt level chargers and trucks is the capability of providing 100 miles of range for a heavy duty truck in less than 10 minutes. And the standards are still being worked on, but we're using only open standards for interoperability across different vehicles and control systems. And it's a modular design so that it can be scaled. And so there's some future proofing being planned. And the target cost for all of this infrastructure is below $500 per kilowatt. And next slide, please. So in addition to building the 2 pilot sites, we're going to be identifying additional site locations to support medium and heavy duty battery electric trucks. We're taking a community-driven approach, making sure we understand the variety of needs in the surrounding affected communities, because different communities are going to have different problems, so we have to keep an open mind. And this will involve building a heat map to see how we're prioritizing sites based on user needs and convenient access, major throughput areas for freight volume, grid capacity, and capabilities like distributed energy resources and on-site storage integration, and whether or not these sites are in disadvantaged or highly impacted communities. We'll be using this heat map throughout the life of the project to inform the development of this corridor. And this map you see on the right of the screen shows some of the work that's already been done here at CalSTART for the West Coast Clean Transit Corridor, with partners like SoCal Edison to work with utilities and evaluate infrastructure opportunities for zero emission freight movement and identify charging opportunities for medium and heavy duty vehicles along the I-5 and other major connecting corridors. And with that, I'll hand it over to Stella to discuss our Community First Technical Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Nate, Blair, and Alicia. That was really, really helpful. And I'm sure there's lots of questions. And we're going to have a section, a Q&A section in just a little bit. But we wanted to just jump back to the Community First Technology Advisory Committee and what that looks like, right? We have done, the team, the GRID team has done a lot of work around trying to identify the various entities that we think should be involved or that would want to be involved. So that includes academia, nonprofits, CBOs, healthcare organizations, local government, and environmental justice organizations. And if you look around the room here, if you will, I think we have a good representation of all of those stakeholders here. And there are a few folks that weren't able to attend, so we're going to try to engage them in the next week or so to see if they might still be interested in being involved with this committee. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the responsibilities, right? We talked about the diverse set of stakeholders. What is it that we're asking, right? We're asking that you help to inform the project, to engage diverse and representative stakeholders and community groups to help disseminate and solicit all of this, wonderful information and our project activities. We want to ensure that the engagement findings are incorporated into this project so that we best serve and benefit these communities that we're targeting here. We want to ensure local communities that are affected by freight and the goods movement have their voices heard, and that small and local fleet operators have a voice as well. We want to make sure that we don't come in, to a city or a community and say, oh yeah, we think a charging station for electric trucks would be perfect right here in your community. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak to that and to offer their suggestions and feedback. So contributions to the project, we plan on meeting on a quarterly basis. We want you to assist with community engagement and stakeholder input. We want your feedback in the development of the community engagement strategy and equity plan. And we want to provide input for the development of community outreach collateral and identify relevant equity metrics, right? So these are, some of the things that we are planning for this committee. If you can go to the next slide, Giovanni, thank you. So let's look at the goals. Again, we've talked about this a little bit. We want to use a community first engagement framework, ensure that these communities that are most impacted, that they're involved in creating and guiding this initiative. The objectives inform the project on community engagement, the needs and impacts. We want to disseminate and solicit input from these project activities from community members and groups. We want to promote equity in priority communities and foster a community-driven partnership for technology and zero-emission freight corridor development, planning, and site prioritization. We can't repeat this enough, so that's why you keep seeing this over and over again, right? And then finally, the functions provide input on that strategy and equity plan, support equity and community engagement goals, and inform engagement activities. Let's take a little closer look here. You can go to the next slide, Giovanni. So part of that input for the strategy and equity plan we need your help in reviewing and giving feedback for this plan. We need your help identifying relevant equity metrics, identifying opportunities for engagement activities to support the project, and then ensure prioritization of resources to benefit these communities, right? Again, we can't stress enough that, you know, we don't want anyone to think that, you know, we have all the answers. The answers are all, you know, with you, and you're gonna help to create these plans and these processes. Next slide, please. And so the equity and community engagement goals, again, we're building a consortium of community leadership to advance zero emission freight. We're presenting goals and objectives to communities that are near freight corridors. And then we want to incorporate how to engage these communities in infrastructure planning for zero emission trucks for the purposes of replicating and scaling up this infrastructure. So, you know, you can talk with Alicia or anyone from CalSTART about the vision to be able to take this, you know, this is a pilot, right? But take the learnings from this pilot and then just move throughout California and eventually across the country to serve as a model for how to do this. So we're really excited about replicating this and scaling this up. The function 3, Giovanni, you can go to that slide. And then again, engagement activities, provide input for the development of outreach collateral, provide recommendations, how to gather community and stakeholder feedback, and then gather community and stakeholder input for public truck charging locations using various methods. So those are just some of the engagement activities there. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So let's stop for just a little bit. And if you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. We have a few questions that we're going to ask in just a second here. But if you want to raise your hand or if you want to put a question in the chat, I'm sure there's lots of questions. This is a big, big project. We're trying to give you just an overview in an hour and a half, but lots of questions I'm sure that might come up about this effort. And so let's see, any questions, any hands up yet?
See,
Yes.
Genevieve.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Genevieve.
Hi, everyone. This is Jen Giuliano from USC Metrans. This is just an amazing project. I want to start there. It's exactly the kind of thing I think we need to move forward. So I'm very impressed. I do have a few questions and I'll just kind of list them and then somebody else might want to answer. I'm noticing that there's not anyone, as far as I can tell, from the trucking industry that's in this Zoom. And I noticed that there is this kind of list of people or stakeholders, and small freight operators are in there. So I'd like to have some information really about how the trucking industry is being engaged. And the reason that I say that is they're in the very best position to tell us what they need to make this work. So perhaps they're on the technical committee or something, but it seems like they would be just an absolutely primary group to be involved. And then secondly, I can't help but think of the California effort of freight corridors, which I think is SB 671. And wondering how this effort is coordinated with the legislation and the effort to identify corridors there. And those are my two questions. Thank you.
Alicia or Blair, going to tackle those questions?
Absolutely. Wonderful thoughtful questions and really appreciate that. I will say that we are going to be growing our network of partners that we're bringing into the discussion. In terms of bringing in the fleet voice, the small fleet voice, that is absolutely going to be a critical activity as a part of this committee. CalSTART, we manage the hybrid truck, zero emission truck and bus voucher incentive project. And through that effort, we're actually moving forward a really important effort called Transforming Trucks, Transforming Communities, where we're working with small fleets, working with the drayage community, and that's going to be a really important partnership that we're going to be leveraging for this project. So there's some really thoughtful and certainly not perfect. We still need to continue to improve. We need to continue working with all of our partners to understand how we can reach this very important audience, and certainly the individuals and companies that we seek to benefit through this project. We have for this committee invited the trucking associations and other industry associations to help us certainly represent the voice of their constituency, but also to work with them to understand who do we need to be bringing to the table as a part of these discussions. So this is a first launch for this committee, and certainly this is a new project. We're still ramping up quite a bit, but really looking to hear from this committee who we need to be bringing into this effort. And certainly we have a number of committees that, we're going to be bringing different stakeholders into. Also, that might be supporting different committees, so they might be participating on all three committees, but making sure that we are representing certainly the voice of the individuals and companies that we want to impact. So Jen, I will tell you that that's going to be an important mission of this committee, is looking at how this committee, how this project is going to be conducting outreach and engaging with small fleets and independent owner operators. So that is definitely an important element of this project and our intention. Regarding your second question, wonderful thought. And yes, we are going to be coordinating with these partners. There's actually a number of different efforts for corridor planning underway, and CalSTART's been working on a number of them and has been leading a few alternative fuel corridor partnerships. So we are going to be looking at how we can better align where there's opportunities for synergy, how we can be bringing in these critical partners that are influencing these other projects. So for example, LA Metro is carrying out a very important project looking at the 710 corridor project, 710 corridor, and looking at how to engage with community and industry and government to support advancing zero emission freight along the 710 corridor. So we want to be coordinating through that very important effort. So we are keeping our eye on all these really important partnerships, and definitely are going to be bringing in the critical leadership that are impacting those projects to our discussions, so that we are coordinating and we're aligning, especially where there's opportunities for prioritization of investments and where we want to see infrastructure go to really support, certainly in the San Pedro Bay and Southern California area, where we're going to be targeting important and crucial infrastructure development to support and enable this industry. But not only in Southern California, but also in other critical parts of California where we see a lot of freight activity.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Genevieve, for your question. We have a question from hand up from Yasi, and then Nancy has a question in the chat.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Question about the Riverside location. Is that because it's you're going to be near the university? I'm just curious because the Inland Empire has so many pockets of warehouse and drayage truck concentration. Why not consider Fontana or San Bernardino? And then for the LA location, are you just focusing in, are you studying like the ports, or where? Can we get a little bit more specific on like the specific areas?
Sure. Yes, a really wonderful question. Yeah, I think what we wanted to be able to demonstrate were two really critical locations that support a lot of that truck movement from the ports to the Inland Empire. The location that we've identified near the Inland Empire is in collaboration with Travel Centers of America. So we're working at a truck stop where it's an ideal kind of safer location for demonstrating megawatt high-powered charging. So that was kind of a strategic decision, as well as the collaboration with this really important truck stop. So that's the reason why we've identified that specific location in the Inland Empire. In terms of the location with the San Pedro Bay port area, we're working with MHX, which is a really important distributor of goods, working with them and identifying a really, again, looking at the appropriate, as we're demonstrating this first of its kind technology, really making sure that we have the site specifications to help pilot this technology. So we had two really thoughtful partners that were willing to support and participate in this project. We found the locations to be strategic, at least from a pilot standpoint. I will share with you, Yasi, a really important part of this partnership with this committee is that we are going to be working through a process of identifying where we need to be placing additional charging technology to support in and around the ports, certainly the Inland Empire, and as we're kind of growing out along I-5 and other major connecting corridors. So this is just the start, and it's a very important start. This is a very critical opportunity for us to really understand how this technology is going to work. And there's a lot that we're going to need to do in terms of testing and validating the safety and the operational performance of this technology. So we're working very closely with the Southern California Edison. We're going to also be using their laboratory to test the technology before we actually deploy it at these two sites. So that's the reason why we selected those two sites. And I think they're also key locations to serve the audience and certainly the truck members that we want to benefit through this project. But we're going to be expanding the deployment of charging beyond those two sites. And that's going to be a part of the vetting process that we're going to be doing, working with our Industry Technology Advisory Committee and our Community Technology Advisory Committee, all the wonderful people that we've brought to this call and others that we're going to continue to outreach to. The other question that I saw, is this project only focusing on battery electric vehicle technology? Yes, this project is specifically looking at developing high power charging technology for Class 8 battery electric trucks. However, what's really great about this partnership is the opportunity to leverage other efforts to look at how we're building out our zero emission corridors. Certainly hydrogen is going to be playing a really critical role in that. We're seeing an emergence of Class 7, Class 8 hydrogen fuel cell trucks that are going to be able to support long distances. With this project, we're looking at that drayage operation where battery electric technology seems to be a very opportune fit for this sector of transportation. So that's where the emphasis on battery electric is really the priority of this project. However, as we're looking at the planning process and coordinating across all these corridor efforts, it's going to be really important that we're also looking at how we're coordinating with the hydrogen industry, because I see that being a very important element of our zero emission freight future as we're looking at building out these zero emission freight corridors.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Yasi and Nancy, for your questions. Any other questions?
Stella, I think I'll just mention really briefly that we do have, in response to Jen's question, we do have the Industry Technology Advisory Committee where we're engaging with a lot of fleets in the industry, manufacturers and OEMs and that side of things. And we're doing a lot of the same sort of engagement and outreach and surveying them as well throughout this process.
Perfect. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate that. Let's see. There's a question from Michael. Will you please tell us more about technology transfer activities? Also, industry incumbents such as automotive OEMs were mentioned. How are you thinking about engaging with early stage innovators across the region?
Michael, very good question, and thank you so much. Our technology transfer activities are going to be our opportunity of sharing all the good work that's coming out of these committees and certainly coming out of this project. We are going to be working very closely, and as Nate just mentioned, we do have an Industry Technology Advisory Committee, which we bring together our fleets, we bring together our truck manufacturers, our infrastructure solution providers, our utilities, our ports. I think the other benefit of CalSTART being a partner to this project is that we are working with all those early innovators of technology, whether it's vehicle technology or infrastructure technology. So we are regularly communicating and engaging with that industry, the new emerging technologies that are also coming in the forefront. So that will be an important process that we're going to be supporting through our Industry Technology Advisory Committee. As we're looking at the learnings that are coming out of demonstrating technology, certainly building the first of its kind high power megawatt charging technology, we're going to be reporting out what we're learning, certainly through our website, but also through outreach activities, what is going to be basically aligned through our technology transfer plan. The technology transfer plan is essentially how we're bringing the learnings of this project and sharing it with critical stakeholders, sharing it with the public, but also inviting the opportunity for feedback and input. Our way of creating these committees is kind of an effective way of formalizing the process so that we have a cadence of being able to meet with you regularly to basically kind of share where we're at and where we could use your help in terms of input. So in terms of technology transfer, that's going to be our way of sharing the information, inviting really good discussion around what we could be doing better, more effectively, who else needs to be involved in the project in terms of the technologies we want to advance, and certainly the communities that we want to benefit. But that's certainly an area that we're working right now. Our website's kind of that first opportunity to kind of show what e-truck is all about and what we hope to impact, but we want to be setting up a regular cadence of how we're interacting with the public as it relates to this project. And it's going to be really important that we're coordinating certainly with our EPRI team and the California Energy Commission, because this is a really important project. There are going to be a lot of eyes. There already are a lot of eyes outside of California and even globally on this project. So we have an important job to do to really make sure that we're effectively capturing the learnings, the templates, the best practices, so that we can be sharing that outward and helping to influence other programs that are taking place outside of California.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Michael, for that question. All right. I don't see any more hands, but if anyone has any more questions, if not.
It's David from the Conservation Store. I couldn't get the raise hand button to work. How you doing?
Hi, David.
Hey, I know we've got a couple of workforce agencies on the call. Our brothers and sisters over at the LA Conservation Corps, and of course, Grid is here, and everybody and others. Just wanted to maybe like a little bit more on sort of, I know it might be a little bit further downstream, but just the workforce angle and the thoughts on that engagement and what that'll look like. We're really excited about that. So, thanks.
Yeah, David, absolutely. Appreciate that question. Shamika, you want to jump in here real quick? I can also comment on it as well. Oops, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What was the question?
Just excited to hear a little bit more, a little more teaser on the workforce angle. I know you guys talked a lot in the presentation about sort of the equity goals and the community investment goals and the community access goals for the communities that are going to be a part of this. So just excited about it. So I thought I could ask a question to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So I think we have a wide range of goals. One is to get the community together to identify possible training opportunities within this entire project. So how can we align training opportunities to the projects that are coming down the pipeline through this overall project? And so we really want to get with workforce development agencies, anyone in academia, to really guide the conversation of what are those low-hanging fruits that what are those low-hanging training fruits that we can identify. So I really think that we are open in terms of workforce development, but we do want to identify training. We want to identify employment opportunities as well as industry partners to make sure that we're aligned with everything that's happening in the communities that we plan to go into. So we want to make sure in terms of equity that we're providing opportunity to the folks that are already there and maximizing whatever that looks like.
Thank you, Shamika. Thanks for your question, David. And David, CalSTART and Grid had really good conversation about this when we first started, that, you know, we want to make sure that we're connected to the industry technology committee as well, so that we can learn about, so we can become prepared and learn about the various jobs that could potentially be created from this, right? So we're going to stay in close contact with them. And we also want to provide the other committees with peeks into the technology that's, you know, that's being created, right? So we're excited about that. You know, it's going to be a work in progress, obviously. But you know, we have Shamika Marquise that's going to be working from there, and to connect with the industry technology group, with workforce development group. So a lot of work still to be done there.
Exciting.
Good deal. All right. Well, I think just for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and move to our questions, and we really hope that you can help answer some of these questions. Giovanni, if you can go to the next slide there. So just a few questions. How does this project align with your organization's goals and objectives? Why could this project be important for you? What are the benefits to your organization and you personally in joining CTAC? What does project success look like to you? And what factors or barriers do we need to consider in rolling out this first of its kind project? And we really appreciate your feedback here. So let's jump to the first question. And I think Giovanni is going to go ahead and start taking notes. Thank you, Giovanni. If you want to just put it in the chat, or just go ahead and, you know, call something out. How does this project align with your organization's goals and objectives? Why is it important to you? Chris?
Yeah, this is Chris Chavez with Coalition for Clean Air. Thank you for this presentation. I think the most obvious one is obviously there's a large air quality benefit to projects like this. As we know, the Southern California region is home to the dirtiest air in the nation, and we still are far away from meeting the national air quality standards for ozone, smog, and even now, the South Coast is AQMP is projecting using a black box reduction for 2031 and 2037 standards, which is reductions from future technologies. Really cleaning up the transportation sector is going to be vital in if we're ever going to meet those air quality standards. So promoting clean goods movement, clean heavy duty trucks, medium duty trucks is going to be a big factor in that.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Luke?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Luke Klipp with Supervisor Janice Hahn's office. Just wanted to note that for the supervisor, zero emissions truck program has been a very high priority for a number of years. She's been an advocate for zero emissions technology in our goods movement industry for the last couple of decades, and is particularly interested in seeing this along and near the 710 corridor, where we're seeing really high levels of criteria pollutants and diesel pollution, which are having a profound impact on a lot of our communities. So just want to thank the folks who are organizing this, and looking forward to seeing how this conversation goes.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. And remember, the call is being recorded, so whatever we don't capture in the notes right now, we're going to go to that recording and then add to our notes section here. All right. Any other responses here? If not, we're going to move to our next question. Let's see. Giovanni, if you can switch to the next slide. Yeah. What are the benefits to your organization?
Kelly?
I'm sorry.
Hi, it's Nancy. I just wanted to call attention to my comment in the chat too.
Oh, yes, Nancy, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yes.
I'm using chat a lot today because there is a shocking level of background noise here.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
So I'm quiet for the moment, but I'm going to go back on mute.
Yeah, absolutely. Gateway cities in Southeast LA County, and many of our members are cities along major freight corridors, including 710, 91, 605, 405 by freeways, who place high priority on rapid deployment of clean heavy duty trucks throughout our region. Thank you for that. Nancy. Really, really important. Good deal. Okay. What are the benefits to your organization you personally enjoy in joining the CTAC? Yassi also had a comment here. Sierra Club's My Generation campaign, we focus on climate solutions that build on intersectional principles like public health, green jobs, and social justice. This project will provide data that ZE trucks are feasible and market ready for communities hurt first and worst by air pollution. Yes, absolutely, yes, and thank you. Anyone else? Can we go back to the last, there you go, thank you, to the last question. If there's any responses there, benefits to your organization. I don't see any hands, but please keep adding to the chat. The third question, Giovanni. I'm just moving a little quick here. What does project success look like to you? I'd love to hear from folks. What, when you think about this, big picture at the end of the day, what should we be striving for, right? Whether it's from the Community First Technology Advisory Committee perspective or, from the entire, REDA, eTruck REDA project perspective. Any thoughts there? From my perspective, I'm really excited because of obviously the technology, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but the workforce development opportunities are really exciting for me because, we do a lot of that at Grid Alternatives. And so I know that Shamika and Marquise are thinking about this and saying, wow, this is another track for us. This is, we train folks on, how to install solar, right? How to install battery storage. We're doing a little work around charging stations, but this is a game changer, could be a game changer for us. So really excited about that. But just anyone else that's thinking about what
I have one.
Yes.
I think what project success will look like to me is really getting the feedback from the community. I really think a lot of times that communities are often left out and they're not being educated on the things that are happening. So to have a group of folks that are coming together to have conversations around engaging the community, I think is really important. And I think it's a really big step and towards what the overall goal is. So I think that will be a success metric for me to see that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love to hear from a couple more folks. What does success, what could success mean to you, for this project?
I think having the utility on board too is really powerful, and them backing this technology up could create like widespread use. I mentioned earlier, we're seeing some delays at the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach on adopting ZE technology for many reasons, but one reason is because of how slow charging is. And I think community members, like what was said before by Shamika, I think it's important to have like events or like ceremonies around these charging stations to go online so that folks know that it's in their backyards and there's some reprieve from cumulative impacts that hurt their communities. So I'd like to see like public facing events or forums in Zoom or in real life in different languages and
absolutely.
Yeah, and then widespread application.
Thank you, Yasi. I appreciate that. We have some comments in the chat, but I'm going to go to the hands up first. Chris, thank you for being here first off.
Yeah, hi, and thank you for inviting us. I agree with all the comments really about the need for infrastructure. We have learned that first of all, the cost of transitioning to zero emissions almost doubles when you talk about the need for infrastructure. And so it's a really critical thing that is important. It also is a regional discussion, which is why this is such a great project, because you really need to think about infrastructure in a strategic manner so that you can assure that you have infrastructure met for all the operators as they move to the various corridors that are important for delivery of goods. And so we welcome this type of project and this type of discussion, and we would very much like to be a part of it. It's important. We believe zero emissions technology will increase in usage quite a bit over the next 10 years. And the best thing to help facilitate that is making sure that there's adequate infrastructure so that when the equipment is purchased, people can use it.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that, Chris. We have a few questions here. Amber, Mark, and then Marquise.
Hi, thank you. My name is Amber, Communities for a Better Environment. Some of my responses might not be to this question, but it's just I have to hop off. So I'll just go ahead and say my responses. But projects as this looks successful when there's no displacement of homes and businesses, but also when the air quality is improved and community health is improved as well. And we can always look at that by looking at equity metrics, health metrics. I think something like that was mentioned earlier in the project. But yeah, making sure that no one's displaced and making sure that health overall is improved, because a lot of these are frontline communities that suffer a huge disproportionate amount of pollution. But yes, thank you again for this space, but I have to hop off, and thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Amber. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Mark? Mark Carell?
Hi, I'm with Breeze Southern California. We are focused on environmental health, so the benefits to the environment and reducing air pollution will improve public health and reduce asthma and other lung diseases and cancer and et cetera. So our focus is seeing that the diesel trucks are replaced by zero emission trucks. And this opportunity to charge trucks in a much quicker fashion will give fleets and independent owners greater comfort if they move to zero emission. So I think the electric trucks, I think what we're looking for in terms of success is seeing no more diesel trucks on the road.
Thank you. Very clear. Thanks, Mark. Marquise?
Yes, so, just piggybacking off of the comments that were made earlier by you, Stella and Shamika, I think one very important piece will be the involvement of the next generation and getting them on task and on target with what's coming down the pipeline and understanding how impactful this project can be on their lives and creating opportunities for them, but also, for the environment. So, just getting the education piece involved and getting it out to the high schools as well as the colleges, I feel will be definitely a detrimental portion of the success, and to show that we are basically preparing them for the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Marquise. And thank you, Danny, for your comments, really important. And Nancy, really appreciate your comments as well. We're going to add those to the notes section here. I wanted to move on to the last question here, just real quick. What factors or barriers do we need to consider in rolling out this first of its kind project? And this is one that I'm always very concerned with, that, there's always resistance whenever there's any sort of change, right? That, there are some folks, that, are going to say, hold on, we don't know if this is a good thing, right? And so we want to be prepared for that. And so we really appreciate any thoughts that you have, factors or barriers that we should consider in rolling out this first of its kind project. Chris, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think this may be going in a slightly different direction than perhaps this question's intended, but I think one thing to be mindful of as this process moves forward is that there are also a lot of other clean transportation projects and efforts going on, a lot of community or meetings, a lot of stakeholder engagement meetings, which is great. But at the same time, making sure that there's not overtaxing the capacity of participants, I think is going to be important. This is the third or fourth meeting I've had on an infrastructure project over since Monday, and so certainly being mindful of that, I think is going to be important. And I would expect, especially for all the federal dollars coming in, that is only going to increase. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Chris. Now we are talking about that constantly. Like, everyone has their day jobs. We need to be cognizant of that. We need to determine, what is the best approach, what is the best time to meet, and just to help to try and figure out how we can help provide resources, if possible, to the committee. So we're thinking about that. It's so important. Jackie, my friend, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you so much, Stella. Good morning, everyone. Jacqueline Badejo, Watts Clean Air and Energy Committee. And I've just been listening to everyone, and really the thing that's in my heart to say out loud is to make sure, yes, that we take care of we have a just transition for the current truck drivers and their businesses, also the young people, but even more importantly, looking at what's happening globally in terms of where transportation comes in for food, for all of the commodities that we need for daily necessities, and really embedding that data into how we plan, because there's a lot of turmoil going on. It's a lot of different efforts, and I want to see all those efforts come together. That's what the success would look like for me, with not only, I guess when we think of the word infrastructure, it's like, yes, the capital infrastructures, but really breaking it down, busting through the concrete to get to what are the other social and community infrastructures that need to be in place to bring these projects together. For instance, Watts sits in the middle of all these freeways, and the Alameda corridor goes straight through. What I would like to see, I'm happy to hear that the transportation agencies are on board, because what I never hear anyone talking about, one, are the conversions. Like, I think we need to put an emphasis on the conversions, because we're pushing people too hard. And then the other thing besides the conversions is really depending on these railways and all the electricity that flows through those systems and bringing them over into the communities or to where we're able to designate for these infrastructures to be built. That's what I have to say for now, but everyone is right on point. I just thank you all for being here and your dedication to this work. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you, Jackie. I really appreciate your comments there. Very, very important. Luke, and then Shamika, and then we'll move on.
Yes, thank you. I think, when I was sensitive to seeing the maps that were shown earlier with sort of dots of, here's where we want to put this or that, sort of in general, where we sort of identified the need for these kinds of facilities. But it's one thing to have a dot sort of generally look at. Sorry about that. It's one thing to have a dot sort of generally look at on a map. It's another to have, specific locations identified.
Yeah, absolutely, Luke. And
sorry about that. Yeah, still to have specific locations identified, and to actually be talking about, particular locations where you're going to have these kinds of facilities, which are going to be next to schools, next to businesses, next to homes, right? And so, what we can talk about these things sort of in general context, but when we get more specific, I think it needs to be a really concerted effort to engage the communities directly that are what we're talking about here.
Most definitely. Thank you for that, Luke. Shamika?
Yeah, my comment is really quick, but it's just to piggyback a little bit off of Jackie and Luke. So I think one of the biggest barriers that we do face is the transportation industry buy-in. So we might have a lot of large transportation employment agencies buy into everything that we're putting out, but I don't want the local transportation entities to be lost, like those smaller companies. And so my biggest thing is like getting buy-in from the community and within transportation, but on a smaller scale. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's one of the biggest barriers that we will have in this project.
Good deal. Thank you, Shamika. Jackie, did you have another comment or?
Yes, I just wanted to put an emphasis on education. I'm also a community lead for AB 617, and we focus on transportation and pollution. And of course, it ties into this. And the thing is, people are not educated. Even the truck drivers themselves are not educated, and they have to do with all this enforcement. And so that's another way for just transition and making sure that we're effective and fair. We have the equity measure at play.
Absolutely, Jackie. We're super sensitive to that. And that's part of our plan. And, you know, with the committee, that advisory committees, we hope to find ways to be able to deliver this education and engage the folks that, you know, really, you know, will benefit from this information and from the project itself, right? I want to just recognize the comments from Danny, from Nancy, from Michael, Alberto. Thank you so much. They will all, your comments will all be added to the notes that we share, that we are taking here, and we'll share these with you after the meeting. Really, your comments are just right on, and we're taking all of this in, and we're just trying to make sure that we're going to address this, you know, during our advisory committees and when the work starts, right? Can we go to the next slide, Giovanni? So here's just a real quick exercise. So if I were to ask you right now to, in the chat, you know, would you be willing to participate on the Community First Technology Advisory Committee? If you could just give us a thumbs up, or in the chat, just say yes or no. And then we will move on. I'll just give you all like a minute to do that real quick, or thinking about it, you know, or maybe, yeah, just so we get a sense for, you know, how many people, how many organizations could be involved with this effort. So if you can do that just real quick. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it. Jackie, Danny, thank you. David, Patricio, awesome. Thank you so much. More yeses coming in from Viviana, from Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for being here. Jonathan, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Keep on. We're gonna keep moving. Thank you, Chris. And thank you in advance to Dr. Louis. Mark, thank you. Alberto, I already mentioned. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm gonna keep an eye on the chat there. And we're going to talk about near-term actions, right? And so this is, hold on one second, I'm just checking my notes here. So, you know, what's coming up next? We want to convene a subcommittee to review and provide feedback on the draft community engagement strategy and equity plan. Now, this is something that we put a little thought into, but we want to see if any of you would be interested in taking a look at that engagement strategy and equity plan. And so, Giovanni, you're going to share a quick poll, is that correct?
Yes, I can do that now. This should not take too long. Just one question here for this first poll. Okay. And it should be launching now. I'll give like about a minute for folks to respond, and then I'll end the poll.
So we're hoping that in September, let's say in, you know, early to mid-September, that we could come together just to review the engagement strategy and equity plan that we're creating, get your feedback, and then make sure that your feedback is incorporated into that plan. So if you can all do that real quick.
And I think we have, yep, it's still coming at 60%.
Okay, wonderful.
Need a couple more responses here.
While you're waiting for the final responses, Giovanni, I'm just going to say that another near-term action is that we are going to launch the Workforce Development Advisory Committee in September. And that's something that Shamika and Marquise will be working on very, very hard on. And so that's coming up, in just another month or so. Okay. All right. How's that poll coming?
We're at 73% answered of responses.
Okay.
Maybe 30 more seconds.
All righty. All right.
All right, let me.
And thank you for your responses, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we had I believe you can see the results now. We do have a great amount of folks here that responded. 19 of 23 right now that responded that they would like to form. They would like to be part of the subcommittee to review. So that's wonderful. So we'll make sure to follow up with folks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Giovanni, for doing that. Yes, we will definitely follow up. And the next slide, please. Just project next steps. And I think I'm going to hand this over to Blair to talk about that first section.
Yeah, thanks again, Stella, for a great discussion. I won't belabor this real quick. We kind of talked about some of the stuff at the beginning about elements of this project, but we're launching 4 different committees of which this is one of them, to really engage all the different stakeholders in making this project a success. And then there's a number really of technology elements that are going to need to go into this project, including a fleet needs and battery electric vehicle truck technology assessment, which is in progress. Development partners, we already have a bunch of folks on board, but identifying potential technology partners as we go and farther and deeper into this project, particularly a website, which I mentioned is already up, and we welcome you to check that out. We can probably put I think we can put the link in the chat if people want to take a look at it. And a couple of the things here in terms of site host coordination and lab preparation in terms of the data and understanding needs for these pilot sites for phase 1. So that's kind of the near term ahead of us, and we're looking forward to all that. And I'll turn it back over to Stella to talk about the CTAC near term actions.
Thank you, Blair. And just real quick, and we talked a little bit about this, but first we're looking for that CTAC member commitment. We want feedback on the CTAC goals and objectives. We will be providing industry presentations during future CTAC meetings. We want to make sure, to Jackie's point, that people are educated about this technology and that they understand how this will impact, hopefully in a positive manner, how that it will impact them and their communities. And then we want feedback on that community engagement strategy and equity plan. So those are our next steps overall. We have one more poll and then we're all done here. Giovanni, can you launch that final poll, please?
Yes, I will be launching that right now. There you go.
Good deal. So yeah, we have just a couple questions there. Which day of the week would work best to attend future CTAC meetings and industry presentations? So check all those dates that apply, and then what time of day would work best. So, morning, early afternoon, later afternoon. So if you can just check those off, that would be fantastic. We're almost done here. Thank you all.
I'll give it a little bit more time. We're still at 62% completed.
Okay.
And folks, this is the last piece before we wrap up our presentation here. So we'll be done a lot earlier than expected.
Thank you.
Yep, couple more seconds here. We're at 68% completed, 72.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
I think we just need 7 more people to respond. We're at 75%. But that could be staff, so I think we're good now that I think about it.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Good deal. And you want to show the results real quick? Okay. Okay, cool. I know everyone's struggling, just trying to find, you know, additional hour or so for another meeting, but we got a little bit of everything there. So we will do our best to accommodate everyone to find a convenient time for everyone to have these quarterly meetings and industry partner presentations. So thank you all for that. Really appreciate it. And if we can just go to the next slide, Giovanni. So we really appreciate all of you being here and all of your comments, your feedback. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Here's the CalSTART team and their email addresses. And you know, we can send these in the meeting notes as well. And then the next slide, Giovanni, I think that's the grid team. And so there's our email addresses as well. We will send you the slides, we'll send you the notes. And so you'll have this information, but you can get a hold of me anytime. Thank you so much. Alicia, CalSTART, anyone from the grid team, any final comments?
Stella, first of all, you did a wonderful job facilitating today's meeting and really enjoyed the thoughtful conversation, the great questions, the great comments. We have a lot of important work to do, and we look forward to working with every one of you. As you think about other partners that we should be including in this important effort, please send them to our way, because we look forward to engaging them and bring them into this very important project. But really looking forward to the subcommittee to provide input. I need more coffee. Providing more input into our equity and engagement strategy plan, and really look forward to working with all of you and looking at how we can bring value of this project to you.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came and participated. This is a very big project and an important project, and you know, great job to the team as well. And Stella, great job with the facilitation. Thank you.
And likewise, everyone, I just want to thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to see so many different faces of folks that have been communicating via email. Great to see other familiar faces as well, of folks that I've worked with in the past. And I look forward to collaborating with you all moving forward on this really important project.
I don't think I can say anything different. So just thank you to everyone. And it was a pleasure to meet with you all today. And I think the team did a wonderful job today. And it was great to, it's great to be a part of this project.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for all the feedback. We got a lot of good comments, suggestions, good questions. So really looking forward to incorporating all that. It was just such a good group today. Really appreciate you all being here and appreciate the grid team, all their hard work.
Oh, Ms. Stella, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.